everybody. Welcome to Trek Mission Log. My name is Jason Gilbert. I want to thank you for watching. I apologize once again, I was not able to get a video out yesterday. I had some connectivity issues. Couldn't connect my camera to my computer, and it's never fun when that happens. But I want to thank you all for your understanding. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy this content, would you do me a favor and hit that subscribe button? It would really help this channel out immensely, and it would mean a lot to me personally. Also, when you subscribe, would you please just write in the comments, I subscribed, and I would love to have the opportunity to personally thank you. Also, we are on Instagram at Trek Mission Log, and we can connect with each other on there as well. Now, today we're going to be looking at the original series, Season 2, Episode 13, titled Obsession. It aired on December the 15th, 1967. It was written by Art Wallace, directed by Ralph Sinensky, and produced by John Meredith Lucas. So check out this tidbit of information, and then we'll come back and dive right in. Kirk, Spock, and a landing party of security guards were on a planet where they found a strange substance called tritatium. As Kirk calls to the ship, mysterious smoke appears. Spock phasers off a piece of the tritatium when Kirk smells an aroma. He said it was from a creature that he encountered years ago on another planet, and he orders the security detail to search for it. As they are searching, the cloud appears from behind a rock, and it attacks them, and it kills two of them, and leaves the third one barely alive. Kirk said that the red corpuscles will be completely depleted from them. Spock asked if Kirk knew what it was. He said something that is impossible to exist, and yet it does. We then fade into the title sequence. When we come back, Nurse Chapel presented an autopsy report that indicates nothing other than that their blood count was lowered by more than 60%. Kirk told Spock to maintain position. Scotty cut in and said they need to rendezvous with the Yorktown in 7 hours. Kirk told them to told Scotty to inform them that they would be late. McCoy mentioned that they have to deliver a vaccine to the colony on planet Theta 7, and that the vaccine is highly perishable. Kirk said that they are not leaving orbit until he has answers. McCoy then spoke to him and said that every red corpuscle had been deleted and that it is medically impossible. Kirk told him to look up records from the USS Farragut from 11 years ago, and that people died from the same medical impossibilities. He also told McCoy to wake Ensign Rizzo, the surviving security guard, so that Kirk could talk to him. When Chapel woke Rizzo up, Kirk had two questions for him. First, did he detect an odor? And he indicated that he did. He said it was like being smothered in honey. Kirk then asked if he could detect an intelligence behind it. Rizzo said yes, it was trying to suck all the strength out of them. And then he went back to sleep. Kirk told McCoy that Rizzo told him everything he needed to know, and then he left. McCoy and Chapel marvel at Kirk's behavior. As Kirk entered the bridge, Uhura told him that a message from Starfleet was coming in. He dismissed it, ignored it, and went right to Spock. Spock was scanning, and he found no life form readings on the planet. Kirk asked if the gaseous creature could disguise itself. Spock said for it to hide from scans, it would have to change its molecular structure like gold to lead. And when Spock said that, Kirk has an epiphany of sorts. He told Spock that it would help answer some of the mystery to the tapes that McCoy was looking at. And so Spock has Chekhov take over the scanning, and he leaves the bridge to go and help McCoy. Uhura told Kirk that Ensign Rizzo is dead. A security guard named Gaverick came to the bridge, and Kirk discovered that it was his old captain's son when he was a lieutenant on the USS Farragut. Kirk told him to gather some men and meet him in the transporter room. Kirk said that he was going to try to kill that gas creature. Now, on the planet's surface, they are scanning, and this time they adjusted scans to look for molecular shifts. And indeed, they did find that. They have detected the creature. And so Kirk orders Gaverick to take 2 men to go to the left, and he would take the other 2 and go right so that they could both get at the creature from both sides. Well, the gas creature reappeared, and Gaverick stood for a moment, stunned. He did fire at the creature, and when Kirk heard the fire, he ran. When Kirk arrived, 2 security guards were down. One is dead, the other is critically injured. 4 dead security guards so far. Kirk is convinced that this is the same creature that attacked and killed the crew of the Farragut 11 years ago. In a briefing room, the Trinity of the original series interviewed Gaverick, who fired on the creature. They wanted to know if it appeared to have intelligence. He mentioned that he was startled for a moment, then he opened fire, effectively missing the target. Kirk got angry at him for being frozen and relieved him of all duties and confined him to quarters. As Gaverick left, McCoy said that Kirk was too hard on him. Spock was trying to talk, and Kirk interrupted and told them to write their reports and list their recommendations there. And Kirk then left the briefing room. On the bridge, Scotty said that the ship is ready to meet with the Yorktown, and then Uhura said the Yorktown wanted a status report, and Kirk got upset and said that he's tired of his senior officers conspiring against him. He then yelled at Chekhov for not being able to find the creature on the scanners, and then storms off the bridge. Spock went into sick bay and told McCoy that he needs advice, and McCoy is absolutely startled that Spock asked him that question. Spock then said that there are certain human behaviors that he does not understand, and obsession is one of those things. McCoy then referenced Jim and his creature, and Spock nodded. He said that Ensign Garevik was Captain Garevik's son. Spock also mentioned that Kirk was aboard that ship on his first deep space assignment, and he handed McCoy a tape and asked him to study it. Now, after some time had passed, and presumably after McCoy had studied the tape, McCoy goes into Kirk's quarters to see him. McCoy said that monsters come and go, but one of the biggest monsters is guilt. He said he studied the tapes. He discovered that Lieutenant James Kirk blames himself for what happened on the Farragut. That he, like Ensign Garevik, was startled for a moment, and because he froze, missed his chance to kill the creature. And after all these years, Kirk blames himself. McCoy then calls him out on his obsession and is indicating it in a medical log entry, which has to be done in the witness of a command grade officer. Enter Spock. Spock indicated that the manual states that if command behavior and judgments are in question, that an inquiry be made by the senior officers. So Kirk invited them to ask their questions, and they do so. Kirk calmly answers them and states that he believes that this creature is the same one that attacked the Farragut. Just then, Chekhov chimed in and said he has a reading on the gas creature, and it is leaving the planet's surface and heading into space. Kirk puts the ship on red alert. Enterprise is in pursuit of the creature at warp 8. Scotty warns Kirk that they cannot hold this speed much longer. Kirk said that they are staying at it as long as it takes and asks Scotty to try to get more speed. Finally, they find the creature. They are still pursuing at warp 8. After scanning, Spock said that it is a mixture of matter and energy. Scotty then tells Kirk that they will blow up any minute if they maintain this speed. Kirk reluctantly orders them to reduce speed to warp 6. Chapel goes in to see Garvik in his quarters to bring him food. He doesn't want to eat. He blames himself for not killing the creature when he could, and Chapel uses a little bit of reverse psychology to try to get him to eat his food. On the bridge, Chekhov reports that the creature is slowing. It is down to warp 2. Kirk orders to slow speed and to take it slowly, but to ready phasers. Meanwhile, Garvik goes to the food and in anger throws the lid across the room, accidentally bypassing the air ventilation. Kirk calls battle stations and Garvik runs out of his quarters. He goes to the bridge and asks permission to return to duty. Kirk ignores him and tells Chekhov to fire. The Enterprise does, and it has no effect on the creature. They then fire photon torpedoes, but the cloud is approaching them. Kirk orders deflectors up. Spock said that the gaseous creature would get through the deflectors. Instead of attacking, the creature enters the ship through the number 2 impulse vent. The creature is now in the ship's ventilation and will render their air gone in less than 2 hours. Spock is now calling it a creature as it has demonstrated signs of intelligence. Kirk tells Scotty to try flushing the radioactive waste into the ventilation system, and Scotty agrees. Spock stays behind as the others leave, and he tries to alleviate Kirk's guilt by showing how the ship's phasers had no effect on the creature. That means that 11 years ago, even if Kirk had successfully hit the creature with his phaser, it would not have made a difference. Unfortunately, it didn't help because Kirk was thinking about the crew that perished. Mr. Spock comes in to see Garvik in his quarters to try to tell him that he does not need to feel guilty. His hesitation was a natural part of the human species. Now, as Spock is talking, the creature comes in through Garvik's bypassed air vent. Spock pushes Garvik out of the way and then tries to block the air vent with his hands. When news comes to Kirk, he orders cabin pressure in that room be reversed. As it is, the creature is being sucked back into the vent, and Spock is still alive. Spock indicated it could not take his blood because his blood is green and has a copper base. Kirk then says he understands something about the creature now. Scotty calls Kirk to tell him that the creature is making its way back to the number 2 impulse vent. Kirk orders the vent open, and he takes a minute to talk to Garvik and absolves him and himself of any wrongdoing. And he orders Garvik back to duty. He then goes to the bridge. Kirk said that he thinks he knows where the creature is going, and he orders a course laid in for the Tychos star system. Kirk believes, based on the different odor that he smelled in Garvik's quarters, that the creature was headed to the same planet where the Farragut encountered it, which would be its home. Kirk and Spock believe that antimatter is the key to destroying the creature, and to set the antimatter device it requires 2 people. After much discussion as to who it would be, Garvik volunteered to go with Kirk. Kirk, on the planet, puts the detonator on the antimatter device. They also brought a large canister of blood plasma with them to try to bait the creature. And as they are setting the antimatter device in place, the creature comes to the blood plasma and it consumes it all. Now one of them has to be the bait. Kirk orders Garvik to go back to the ship, and as he leaves, he comes back and hits the captain with a Shatner chop. However, only Kirk can give a Shatner chop that knocks people out. Kirk hits him back. Consider yourself on report, and as the creature comes to them, Kirk orders them beamed up and the antimatter detonated. Spock is having trouble locking onto them, and finally they materialize. Kirk orders a course laid in maximum warp to rendezvous with the Yorktown. He then tells Garvik that he would like to talk to him to tell him some tall tales about his dad, and Garvik said that he would like that. We then see the Enterprise leaving the planet on its way to the USS Yorktown. That is the story of Obsession. All in all, I felt that this was a solid episode. It definitely was quite intense at moments. The story was engaging. There were also a few things that I didn't enjoy about this episode, and I will get to those in just a few moments. Let's start with the positive elements. First of all, I love the throwback to Kirk's history as young Lieutenant Kirk of the USS Farragut from 11 years before this. Thought it was a great reference point for this creature that they encountered. I think it would have enhanced this episode further if we got to see some of the tapes that McCoy and Spock examined. Perhaps seeing Kirk, a young Lieutenant Kirk at about 24 years of age, and to see what the Farragut looked like, but we didn't get to see any of that. Also, a very good added element was that Captain Garvik's son was on board the Enterprise, and it tied in with the overall story nicely. The character in some ways reminded me of Will Decker from Star Trek The Motion Picture. The episode was fairly fast-paced, which was good. I don't think that a slow-moving story would have been a good fit here. The idea of a living gas creature is a very good science fiction idea. When they were chasing the creature in space, that also was excellent. And we'll come back to the creature in just a minute. I felt Spock was great in this episode, although he spoke against flawed human emotion. His human side came out in empathy as he tried to help Kirk and Garvik to not feel guilty over something that they had no control over. It's a great lesson for all of us when we lay awake and worry about things that we can't control. The peril at the end, when Spock was having trouble locking onto them, was also intense and fantastic. Now, the episode was primarily about Kirk, and in most cases it showed Shatner's acting prowess. He was a fine actor. I know that he gets made fun of a lot, and definitely there are some episodes where the acting is over the top, but he did a fine job here. And when his mind got fixated on the creature, he played into the obsessive trait brilliantly. So hats off to him. However, I did feel at times that this episode relied too heavily on Kirk, and also heavily on an unknown character that we have never seen before, Garvik. And a lot of unknowns are given bigger roles in this episode rather than the key cast. However, the unknowns are expendable, and several red-shirted officers died, 4 of them. To my knowledge, we never see Garvik again in an episode, but I do stand to be corrected. Now, one thing that Star Trek does well is to think outside the box in regards to villains, and in this case, the villain was a gas creature. But under normal circumstances, I would be very, very cool with this. However, in my humble opinion, it was too close to the episode titled Metamorphosis where the companion had a similar gaseous appearance. And when in this episode, when the creature settled on someone, had the exact same special effects that was used in the aforementioned episode. Perhaps if there was more time separating the episodes, it wouldn't have mattered so much to me. But it looked and felt the same as the companion to a certain extent. Also, Sulu was not present in this episode. I believe he was off filming a movie with John Wayne called The Green Berets. But when cast members are not present, it is noticeable. Now, one more thing that I will mention. When Gene Roddenberry was writing Star Trek, the original name of the ship was the SS Yorktown. That is pretty significant. Now, although the Yorktown is mentioned in this episode several times, I do think the episode would have had a better ending had it showed the Enterprise rendezvousing with the Yorktown so that we could have seen it. I think that would have been really, really cool. However, that didn't happen. Overall, a solid episode with few things that I would consider weak areas. So I give Obsession 3 out of 5 Starfleet insignias for awesomeness. Check it out. I think that you will find it fascinating. Well, that wraps up this edition of Trek Mission Log. I hope that you enjoyed this review. Please drop a comment below of the things that you enjoyed or even the things that you hated. And also let me know what you think of the episode in question. Now, next week is Good Friday, and it's Easter weekend, and I will be celebrating Easter with my family and with my church family, so I will not be getting an episode out next week. However, when we do come back the following week, we'll be looking at an episode titled Wolf in the Fold, where an investigation is carried out against Scotty. Should prove to be very interesting, and I hope that you plan to join me for that. I wish you all a very happy Easter weekend, and until next time, live long and prosper.